108 feet of fire. 108 feet of fire, or 72 cubits of fire. In the form of white, glorious fire, like fire brighter than the sun. At the end of this age, that fire will consume everything that doesn't have that glorification itself. And the only way that you can have a glorification as bright as the destructive force itself is that you will have to be changed and saved and become that glorification way before the destruction happens itself. The earth will be consumed by a fire that's at least 108 feet deep. And that fire will be white, hot, brighter, and more glorious than the sun. More intense than a river of lava. Something to think about. The earth will be flooded at its highest points. That's a key little piece of information there, isn't it? Not at 72 cubits above the bottom of the ocean. No. 72 cubits above the highest mountains. 108 feet above the highest mountain. So, the bright thing about that is nothing bad is going to be able to escape it. Any genetically modified junk out there is going to be destroyed. But anything that's heavenly guarded will not be destroyed. Things that have not been corrupted. People, animals, and things that are not corrupted, that are protected, will be just that, protected. Whether you rise up in a cloud right above that, say you're in a cloud of glorious manifestation of the Messiah and his cloud of covey dove-like angels bring you up above the tops of Mount Everest, Mount whatever, the highest mount, and you hover above this grand cloud. It's hard to describe. Imagine a cloud that's like a microwave inside of it, cooking and devouring anything that's corrupt, but not touching things that are corrupt. Destroying things that are corrupt, but not touching, not harming things that are not corrupt, sorry. Spacing now and then. And there's a lot of corrupt things out there. A lot of foods are throwing in trace minerals that are basically preservatives. Genetically modified organic foods. See, when you go to a store and buy organics, you gotta see what farm it was grown at. If it was a farm in China or Asia somewhere that has no restrictions, and their organic is just almost natural, but it's not really natural. And all natural sometimes is better than organic by far, because they don't alter genetically, they're not altered, and they don't want to pay the extra organic fees to post it as organic. But if you buy something from, say, Wally World and it says organic, chances are it was grown in China or Asia or someplace that doesn't have a strict organic guideline. And it was brought in a big, huge shipping container on a ship. And that container probably had chemicals in it the trip before, or maybe residue of radioactive material or something. Not in every instance. There's always that chance, though. So try and eat and live and breathe as uncorrupted as possible. Very hard. Anyway, all the things in the earth that are corrupted will be cleansed by a fire that is holy and cleansing. It'll be a warm blanket to some, but it'll be a terribly hot blanket for anything that is corrupted. And corruption is just anything that has strayed from its original genetically character, mostly. Get your house in order, get your life in order, get your foundation in truth in order. You can't put a church on a slab of dirt or sand. You must put it on a slab of rock, a sure truth foundation, and build on the truth. If you don't build on the truth, it'll fall. And that's what the Messiah was saying. If you build your house on the rock, the truth, it's a house. But you base your belief system on sand, it's going to fall apart. And Yahweh is going to tear it apart with his holy fire. I'm reading out of the Apocalypse of Elijah, probably the third time now, and I got little circles and highlight marks all over it. It was nice and clean. Now it's all circled and underlined and highlighted. Really colorful looking book now. And this book is inside of a book called the Apocryphal Books or Pseudepigraphal Books. And I'm just going to read quickly the titles within the book, because that is kind of neat in itself. little things I write beside it's kind of neat, but I won't I won't go through all those. The Apocalypse of Elijah, the call of the prophet, deliverance from captivity is through the incarnate Son of God. What is prepared for both the sealed and the sinners, the deceivers who oppose the fast of Yahweh, which is a prescribed fast that we as Christians don't know anything about. And if we do it, we get blessed. The benefits of the fast. And then now, chapter 2, subtitle for the remaining portion of the text, the Assyrian king of injustice. The need for single-mindedness, the Assyrian king of injustice. The Western king of peace, the evil son on the right, a lament for Egypt in those days. The return of the Jews to Jerusalem, or it doesn't say Jews, does it? Captive Jews who are in Egypt. The return of the Jews to Jerusalem from Egypt. Homiletical aside, truncated oracle mentioning the lawless one, Persian-Assyrian wars, the Persian triumph, the reign of the righteous king from the city of the sun. Neat little titles. The advent of the son of lawlessness. Digression concerning the advent of the true Messiah. Works of the Antichrist or Anti-Messiah. Signs of the Anti-Messiah. Martyrdom of Tabitha, which is a name that seems to be for the 2 churches out of the 7. There's 2 churches, Smyrna and Philadelphia, that are not corrupted. So to clarify, I put church, Rechabites, 144,000, Smyrna, and Philadelphia. The martyrdom of Tabitha. The martyrdom of Elijah and Enoch, which they come to fight the Islamic Isa and the Islamic Mahdi. There are 2 witnesses. This is what they call geocentric. If you look at the dominant religion in the Middle East and where this is based out of, Turkey, Persia, Eastern Middle East, the dominant religion is Islam. So this is based off of that. So the martyrdom of Elijah and Enoch, these are the 2 witnesses that stand up against the 2 Middle Eastern witnesses. The 2 witnesses would be Isa and the Mahdi, the Islamic Jesus and the Islamic Mahdi. That's my 2 cents. The persecution of the saints, the martyrdom of the 60 righteous. Chapter 5, men flee from the Antichrist, the removal of the righteous, natural disasters which follow the removal of the righteous, the lament of the Antichrist and the pursuit of the righteous, word of the coming judgment, the judgment and the execution of the Antichrist, the millennial age begins. Then the next book is the Apocalypse of Daniel. So all kind of treats inside this book, and those were the titles for the little sections. It's a total of 5 chapters. It's not that big. You could read it 10 times in a few days. And what I mean by that is read it over and over and over to build up an understanding, because if you move on to the next book, you're going to forget. And in 3 days, you could read it 10 times. And on the very last 10th time that you read it, take out a highlighter, just a fine, ballpoint pen, and without making some nasty, like I did, I put notes and stuff too, but circle and highlight these things that pop out at you. And in the future, when you read it a couple of times in the future when you come back to the book in the future. I read the apocryphal books. When I get to the end of one book, I just go right back to the other one. I read that. Occasionally I do read the regular Bible, but I read the regular Bible for years before I discovered these. So these, I'm not saying they come first, but they kind of come first for now because I'm trying to catch up with all the years they were taken out of my main Bible. The Bible used to be hundreds of books, and it got narrowed down to 66, which is just really suspicious. Yeah. Anyway, I encourage you to read Apocalypse of Elijah. It is very action-packed of the last 7 or 8 years of the earth. It is really, really, it's got a punch. It's got a punch. It'll knock you out. How much, and if you put this book in Eastern Turkey, say, the far east of the Middle East, at least the Middle East, if you take the whole Middle East and you draw a line on the outside of it and then cut it down the middle, the right side of it, the eastern side of it, will be where this is going to start, and it's going to finish in the whole area, the east and the west and the surrounding areas, north and south as well. But again, I encourage you, Apocalypse of Elijah. And again, may Yahweh Shua bless you. Yeshua for short. And Jesus, for those who decided that they won't change that, they were stuck on that name because they were saved by that name, so they're not going to investigate if it was changed from Yahweh Shui in the 1540s by the Catholic Church to Jesus or Jesus or Jesus, which it was. You can research it and you will find that a Roman Catholic priest did come up with the letter J, and the Society of Jesus is the Jesuits. They created this name, Jesus, to take away power from the true name, Yahweh Shui. And there's power in the name of Jesus, then there's got to be lots of power in the name of Yahweh Shui, is how I look at it. Because the name Jesus was created in the 1540s by the Roman Catholic Church and adopted shortly after the 1540s by the Roman Catholic Jesuit Knights of the Jesuit Order. This is all facts that you can look up in the Catholic Church. There are Knights of Columbus, Knights of Jesuits, Knights of Malta, Knights of this and Knights of that. They all have their own decrees or statements of faith, statements of what their purpose is. Then there's like the top secret circle of those particular knighthoods, and some of these knights on their deathbeds leaked out because they realized that they were wrong. They leaked out the information of these upper inner circles that, and if you research it, if you have time. Most people are too busy. Me, I'm not so busy because I'm disabled neurologically. And my appointment, my work is waking up and taking care of myself where I don't die. And that's a fact. If I don't do something just right, if I don't do everything just right after waking up, I will die, or I'll almost die. And I have the luxury of researching all of this because the work that I do is occasionally yard work, balance some financial things, which is really fun. Not at all. Taking investments and moving them around so they're still investments instead of being robbed by banks and financial companies throwing little fees at you and not ever telling you, and then you research your own accounts and find out that the banks are robbing you with little tiny fees. Absurd, but true. So investments, I could tell you investments, but then there's nothing better than investing in the apocryphal books, the pseudepigraphal books, the canon. I would say some Bibles have 85 books in them. Some don't have the apocryphal books in them, so it's only 66. And be careful with the writings of Shaul or the Apostle Paul. He was never an apostle that walked with the Messiah when the Messiah was walking and talking on the earth. There was always one disciple that was a disciple that was either wishy-washy or the devil himself. We had Judas, and then there was 11 apostles, and then they rolled the dice for the 12th apostle, and then one of the other apostles was killed, so they allowed Stephen's replacement, and Stephen was replaced by seemingly Paul. And you got to ask yourself this question: why would Paul say he's an apostle when he never did ever walk with the Messiah? The 3 to 4 years that the Messiah was walking around, he persecuted Christians to the point of death, and even seemingly replacing Stephen after he helped kill Stephen. It doesn't make any sense. I'm not trying to put doubt on anything towards the scripture. I'm not. But it's really hard for me, anyway, to look at something and say, oh, I just accept it, when I see that there could be corruption. So I'm not trying to, this whole video is about corruption and fire destroying it. So please take the fire of Father Messiah that's inside of you, and be careful when you read things from a person who claims to be an apostle, and he never actually walked and talked with the Messiah while the Messiah was walking around on the earth. Take that however you want. I am very cautious when I read things from the Apostle Paul, because he was never ever one of the 12 apostles. And of course, if I read something from the book, any of the apostles, I'd be careful. But I'm extra careful when I read things from Paul or Shaul, because he was a disciple of Gamaliel, which was an Orthodox, rabbinical, highly regarded Jewish rabbi. And Paul was not Jewish. He was a Benjamite. And the flag, or the banner that flew for the Benjamites, was a wolf. And a lot of people out there are saying that he was a wolf in sheep's clothing. I am not saying that. I am not saying that. I'm just saying be extra careful when you read writings from Paul or books in the New Testament that are seemingly authorless, that seem like Paul, but there's no proof it's Paul. It's just be careful when you read the New Testament. Why aren't there 12 Gospels? You ever think about that? There was 12 apostles. Why aren't there 12 Gospels? And why is Luke considered one of the Gospels when he wasn't even an apostle? Were the 4 Gospel writers one of the 12 apostles? I just want to provoke thought, truthful, wonderful thought. And over the ages, from the time of Messiah till now, over the ages, corruption creeped in. Even before the Messiah, when he showed up, he was trying to do away with false teachings of the teachers, the rabbis, and reinstitute the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible, and do away with the Talmudic books and books that take away, whether they're Quran type books before or after Talmudish books. Any book that takes away from the true meaning of who the power of the Messiah. Be careful when you read books. Be careful. Be careful when you read the pseudepigrapha. Be careful when you read the apocryphal books, but be careful when you read the New Testament, because there's some of the books where they go, we speculate Paul the apostle, and his name wasn't even Paul, it was Shaul, and he wasn't even a Jew, he was a Benjamite, which was an outcast inside of Israel. The Benjamites were known to be very corrupted, and they were attacked and debased and became almost a quarter tribe, not even a half tribe. They were so small, half tribes were bigger than them. So they got kind of consumed by the Jewish tribe. It was like 1 1/4, and the quarter was the Benjamites. And eventually the Levites became like a quarter as well. So it was almost like 1.5 tribes of Judah. So you got to think who wrote these books. Stay away from Talmud, post Messiah, and post Quran type books and writings that add to what the Messiah says or takes away from it. Anyway, there is corruption. I'm not saying the Apostle Paul or Shaul is corrupted, but there is something there. There's something lingering, and you need to be careful when you read anything that's the Apostle Paul, because his name wasn't even Paul. He was a teacher, an evangelist that traveled throughout the earth, but he was not walking with the Messiah for those 3.5, 4 years as a disciple, of which they became the apostles, those 11 men, because one hung himself. There were only 11. Be careful when you read. And why did they take all the apostles out and only left 1 or 2? And replaced Stephen with somebody named Paul or Shaul, when Shaul is the one that killed Stephen. Oh, he's an apostle. He changed his ways. Okay, then he's a follower of Messiah. A true follower of Messiah who has wonderful things going on, and he's an evangelist. But just because somebody's an evangelist, a powerful evangelist, doesn't mean that they are an apostle. The 11 apostles of Christ. Doesn't mean that. So again, provoking thought on corruption and how corruption will be taken care of with lots and lots of glorified fire. 23,000 feet of it. Because those mountaintops have to be covered with, the tallest mountain in the world will have to be covered with 72 cubits of this glorified fire, which is a little over 108 feet. If a cubit is 1.5 feet. I think that's what I came up with. And if I'm off, at least know that we have to have 72 cubits, whatever that is, above the highest mountaintop. Anyway, enough said about destruction and fire. Please let this sink in as provoking thought, not to make you an anti-scripture, anti-Paul or Shaul person, but just be anti-corruption. Just try to live a life that keeps your conscience clean and clear the very best you can with the Messiah, because that's where we're connected to the Messiah, is in our conscience. May all glory, honor, power, and praise be to you, Father and Messiah, forever and ever. And may you be blessed today. Let's be blessed in the truth and not corruption. Peace and blessings.